Welcome to another episode of Life in Rural Japan. Today I'd like to have a bit of a talk about if you've lived in Japan for a long time, how you would go about going back to your own country. So I come from Australia, so I've been in Japan going on 30 years. So I think I don't think I could go back to Australia. I don't think I could afford to go back to Australia. So, living in Japan for so long, with Japanese wages and that sort of thing, and the prices of things in Australia would just be impossible. So, like for example, like the average wage here for a full-time worker is probably around 300,000 yen, which is about 3,000 Australian. Part-time you get 1,000 yen, which is like $10 Australian. In Australia, part-time work now, they probably get about $25, so that's about 2,500. It's a lot more, and things are a lot cheaper here because the wages aren't so expensive, where in Australia things are a lot more expensive. For example, like I pay the house off here, I pay $1,000 a month for repayments. Like in Australia, like in Sydney, you can't buy a house for under $1 million. People are borrowing $700,000 to buy a house. Their payments are astronomical, They're paying so much. Even to rent a place, they're probably paying $700-800 a week to rent a place. So, like, there's just no way I could afford to go back to Australia. So, all the tomatoes are starting to look good. Getting some tomatoes there. They should be ripening up soon. Tomatoes be looking good. Looking forward to getting some nice fresh tomatoes. All these are looking good. Yeah, so, and like, everything's so expensive in Australia. My brother was saying his house insurance jumped $600 in one hit. That's a lot of money. And like here I'm paying about $1.60, 160 yen, about $1.60 for a litre of petrol. In Australia, he's happy if he can get it for $2 a litre. Usually he said it's around $2.50 a litre for petrol. So everything's just crazy, I don't smoke anymore, but I used to smoke a long time ago, 15 years or so ago. But here, a pack of smokes, if you smoke, is about 600 yen, so about $6. In Australia, they're about $50 for a packet of 25. I don't know how people can afford to smoke anymore. I'll get zucchini going up here. I've got the corn here. Zucchini's looking good. Well, they're getting big. Zucchinis are getting big. We used to use the zucchini flowers, and we used to stuff them with mince and stuff and deep fry them in Australia. It was pretty good, actually. Stuffed zucchini flowers. Got plenty here. So yeah, so it's just and I think the like cultural shock would be a bit too much too. Like, things have changed so much in Australia now. Like in Japan, I've been here for so long, I'm used to it. Nothing really, it's just sort of normal. But in Australia, like, mateship seems to have gone out the window. People don't look after themselves. There's a lot of crime and different things. Getting a few watermelon. Got nets over them to keep the birds off them, so the crows don't eat them. Crows pick holes in them, so put nets over them to keep the crows out. So, but everything's just so expensive. Everything's expensive here too. Everything's going up every time you turn around. Things are more expensive. It's hard to make ends meet. But like, for example, I got a friend, he's from America. Last year he had to have a heart operation, bypass, and because it was a major surgery, it was for free. Didn't have to pay anything. And then for a year after this operation, all his doctor's bills and that were all free. Medicine and everything. So it was free for a year. Because it was a major operation, he said he couldn't afford to have it done in America. It would have bankrupted him, It would have been so expensive. And, like, here our health insurance is not so bad. and when you go to the doctor you pay 30% for medication and your doctor's visit, so it's not too bad. Where in America and that, it's just crazy. So, you know, he said he couldn't afford to go back to America. They just couldn't afford it. I've got peanuts here, so I'm going to have peanuts soon. Yeah. So I think once you've been here for a certain length of time, you're sort of stuck here, which doesn't really bother me. I'm used to it. It doesn't really worry me where I live. You know, it's 6 to 1, half a dozen to the other sort of thing. You know, once you get used to something, it's just normal. So living here now is pretty normal for me. It's just nothing unusual. Some things I still find strange, but on the whole, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. So I think that is a big problem once you have been out of your country for a long time, especially if you go to a country where the salaries are a lot less. Unless you had stuff in Australia to go back to, unless you had a couple of houses you were renting out and that sort of thing, where you could go back and you got an income and you got a house to live in and that, I think you're pretty well, you can't do it. I think you're stuck where you are. So I think I'm pretty well in Japan now for the rest of my life. There's no way knowing I could afford to go back to Australia. Like, yeah, it's just part and parcel of it. So anyway, that's just my thoughts on what my future is. So my future is, I think I'm in Japan. Because now with the exchange rate, when I come to Japan, an Aussie dollar was worth 66 yen. Now, an Aussie dollar is about 105 yen. So it's really changed a lot. The yen's just so weak now. So, you know, if you're an Australian and you want to come to Japan for a holiday, it's a good time to come. Things are nice and cheap. But going in reverse, yeah, it's really different. It's really different. Oh, well, anyway, that's just a short little... That's just my thoughts on how you would go if once you've been here in Japan for any length of time, how you would go going back to your own country. I don't think you could do it. Okay, till next time. We'll see you later.